Hello there! Welcome to BiblBabel, the show where we babble about the Bible. Today's subject is of personal importance to me. In every Christian's life, we come across a few problems that challenge our perception of God and force us into a potentially life-changing position. For me, I've had two of these. This question, and the problem of evil, which I'm sure I'll go over in a later video. In these situations, we have three options. We can research and find a solution to our problem, we can ignore the problem, or we can change our views, potentially falling away from Christianity entirely. Obviously, the ideal solution is to solve the problem, so that's what I seek to do today. As far as I can reason, there are four possible solutions to this problem, so let's get started with solution number 1. If this answer frustrates you, please don't leave. It bothers me too. We'll get to that in a bit. That said, there's a lot of truth to it. We can tell from verses like 1 Timothy 3:16 and 17 that God speaks to us through the Bible, and these two verses tell us that God speaks to us through creation, like when you see a moving sunset. Hebrews 1:1 and 2 tells us that God spoke to us through Christ, which was more directly helpful about 2 millennia ago. It's still incredibly helpful, don't get me wrong, but at this point it falls under the speaking to us through the Bible category, since Jesus is currently chilling in heaven at the right hand of God. Lastly, 1 Corinthians 2:13 tells us that the Holy Spirit speaks to us, which is amazing, and we should be eternally grateful for that. That said, if you're an ungrateful individual like I am, who likes to question God at every turn, which is not a good idea, but I tend to do it anyway, you probably think the Holy Spirit's a bit subtle at times, and a holy megaphone blaring in your ear would be more effective. You see, the reason this answer annoys me is that I feel like it dodges the question. If your question was literally just asking why God doesn't speak to us at all, congratulations, your question's been answered. He does. Step 1 to being able to hear him better is to read the Bible. For me, though, when I ask why God doesn't speak to us, I mean audible speech. Just because he speaks to us in other ways doesn't mean he can't speak to us audibly. For one, he's omnipotent. And for two, it's not uncommon for him to speak in the Bible, so we know he can speak audibly. In addition, he's not restricted by time, so it's not like he's too busy to speak to us. Clearly then, if he can speak to us, and he has an unlimited supply of time, his choice to not speak to us is just that, a deliberate choice. To me, that realization was crushing, and trying to understand why God chooses not to speak to us was one of the biggest challenges in my Christian walk so far. This leads us to solution number 2. Wait, what? That's our great solution, that we're somehow better off without God speaking to us directly? While this may seem absurd initially, it actually makes a lot more sense once you stop and think about it. Even though God has our best interests at heart, I think we can all agree that we live in a world where he doesn't always make his presence obvious. Sometimes we question our faith, and though there's evidence of his existence out there, we often have to go look for it to find it. I can't help but think there's a reason for this. When the Apostle Thomas finally believed in Jesus' resurrection, Jesus inquired, "Have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet believed." This leads me to think that it's somehow better for us in the long term if we don't have direct, obvious evidence of God's existence during our time on earth. That said, this isn't the only possible answer for why God doesn't speak to us, and the answer will vary person to person. On to solution 3. Whether he speaks to us audibly or otherwise, it doesn't do us any good if we aren't listening. The Bible tells us in Jeremiah 6:10 that, in some situations, God gives warnings that people choose to ignore. It says, "To whom shall I speak and give warning, that they may hear? Behold, their ears are uncircumcised, they cannot listen." Why can't they listen? The end of the verse explains, "Behold, the word of the Lord is to them an object of scorn. They take no pleasure in it." Long story short, read and enjoy the Bible to be able to hear God and not be like these people. If none of the previous answers apply to you, there's only one more possible explanation. This one's a bit of a bummer. Think of it this way. God is infinitely wise, and humans invented selfie sticks. If you have a dog, be honest with yourself. It's much, much closer to your level of intelligence than you are to God's. Heck, you probably know people who are less intelligent than your dog. Your dog doesn't understand why it has to go to the vet to get poked with needles, or why you don't seem to eat any of its treats, or why you spend hours at a time staring at a plastic rectangle like you are right now. All it really knows is that you love it, and it trusts that you know best. At the end of the day, that's really all we know about God. Sure, we have a limited understanding of God's character and personality from the Bible, but when you get down to it, He's infinite, and we're finite. As long as we live on earth, we won't really be able to understand God or His actions, but as long as we know He loves us, that's okay. Luckily for us, God perfectly demonstrated His love for us through the cross. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in 2 weeks with the next video. Do you have a Bible-related question you'd like answered? Well, leave a comment down below, and I'll see if I can't make a video about it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and to subscribe to BiblBabel for more content like it. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.